Okay, Perek Yutes. We started to look at the things that a person should think about and look at in order to reach a yira of being able to comprehend that we're standing in front of Hashem. So we have to be so careful about these words because they're words that we've been hearing our whole lives, but our goal when we're learning Musar is to hear them with a new freshness. We're standing in front of Hashem. We should get a little shiver now. Shiver now. We should put in, Shiver now, yeah. We're standing in front of Hashem. Hashem is watching us. He's interested in us, like we spoke about last time. Vitira. I'm 4 lines into the second to last paragraph on the page. Vitira ki zehu hayoser kosha sheyitztayer belev ha'adam tziyur amiti. This is the most difficult thing, for it to form in the heart of a person a true tziyur. And look at these next words. These next words are so profound. Ya'an ein hachush oizer lozeh klal. You hear these words? Because the senses of a person don't help. Most things that we do, our senses help us. Even the mitzvahs that we do, our senses help us to be able to connect to the mitzvah. We feel and taste the matzah. We see the licht of the Ner Chanukah. We feel the contours of the esrig. Our senses bring us there. They make us present in the mitzvah. The fact that you're in front of Hashem, it's not just, I think I mentioned this last week, it's not just that your senses don't pick up. It's like, there's like sensors like to pick up if there's like nuclear waste or, like that. It's like trying to pick up, is there anything radioactive? So you can use your sensors. Is there a God sensor? Is there a God? Is there a God? It won't pick up anything. We have 5 sensors Hashem gave us, 5 senses. Each one of those senses are given to us. Without them, we have no connection to the world. Those are our way of knowing what's out there. You know what's outside of yourself from what you can see, taste, hear, smell, and touch. That's how you know what's out there. All of those sensors come up negative on sensing God. So it's not just that you don't have a sensor sensing God. The way our minds work is that if all 5 senses don't pick it up, we decide it's not there. And it's also the culture that we live in from the times of the Yevanim, that the culture around us has reached a level of such hubris that there's this insistence that if we can't see something, it's not there. Despite the fact that science continues to discover new things that they couldn't see until now, they still will not concede that there could be that the spirituality that they can't sense. That's part of our makeup, part of how we're wired, is that it's not there. So our emunah is that it's there. We know that it's there, but our bodies are telling us it's not there. So what ends up happening is that it ends up being just an intellectual thought that Hashem is there. But it's not in our bodies. And if it's not in our bodies, it's different. It's just different. I'll give you an example. Mo records this shir, okay? So it's possible, let's say, that 50 people will listen to this shir, let's say, okay? If I saw all 50 people sitting here right now, I may give the shir differently than I'm giving it to the few friends that I'm sitting around the table with, because I'm saying it in front of 50 people. Now, am I saying it in front of 50 people? Yes. But my mind knows that. But my body doesn't feel that. And in a way, there's sometimes a gap. You find sometimes people do that. People rant on social media or things like that, things that they would never say in front of all the people that saw it. But there's this blank, you don't connect to that because you're not seeing all the people that are seeing you, even if you know that they're there. I mean, how many people when they speak don't look at the audience in order not to have stage fright? So what are you doing? Why aren't you looking at them? You think they're not there? If you're like a 1-year-old that you think that if you cover your eyes, your mommy disappears? Like, what's the point? I don't look at the crowd. It gives me too much stage fright. I just look above. Above what? The crowd. Oh, you know there's a crowd. But the point is that there's a thing that we could do sometimes to pull our body away from an experience, and somehow it makes it less felt in a physical sense. What about HaKadosh Baruch Hu? What about the fact that we're in front of the Melech Malchei Amlachim? As much as our minds might know, we don't even have the recorder in front of us. We don't have any indication that we're in front of Hashem. It's just our emunah. And therefore, a person needs to work. There is something that you have that can trickle down into your body and become a gut feeling that you're in front of Hashem, and that's your seichel. Through a person's seichel, a person could believe. I'll give you an example. If Michel would tell me he has the flu, so I would say, can you please take a few steps back? Okay? Why? Because I'm afraid that you're going to breathe the flu on me. But when you're breathing, can I see little flu molecules coming towards me? No. But I fully believe it, and I'm already going like this. No? You have a lot of times if someone sneezes and you step back. Why? You don't see anything. Because your seichel has completely been kailed. Your seichel has completely absorbed the reality. And ask a guy who's studying medicine, it becomes reality to you. Viruses, these types of things, they become reality. And you react to it like reality. There was this even in the medical field. It's interesting. This whole thing about hand washing? There was this guy who started Atul Gawande, I think. He's a famous author. He's a doctor and an author. Famous guy. I actually think that he's pro-Palestinian or something, like a lot of these guys, liberal pro-Palestinian. But we'll still use what he discovered. So it could be he's South African, maybe something like that. But anyway, he had this thing that he discovered that a lot of the spread of germs or viruses in medical facilities were happening because people weren't washing their hands properly. And if people would wash their hands for a full minute with soap, it would dramatically cut down the amount of transmission of between patients of infectious diseases. And it took a long time. He was able to transform medical institutions by instituting a certain mahalach of washing the hands that didn't allow for your instincts to play in. Because when you're washing hands, even if you're a doctor, at a certain point you're like, okay, it's clean. Even though you know in your mind that if there's a square inch that you didn't touch, that could be the part that there's an infection on. But you feel like you washed your hands. It feels like you washed your hands. So you need to have that emunah, to keep going until you really wash it properly. They have all these hand washing procedures. A lot of that came from his work. So what? What was his power? I don't remember. It's in a book that he wrote, but I think it starts off just with oversight. When people were washing with oversight, so they washed better, and when they washed better, diseases dropped. Once diseases dropped because they washed better, so then they washed better even without the oversight.
They have ultraviolet cream you put on, and then you have to wash your hands.
And then they see what's left.
And then they show you.
Right, they did that. They did that by COVID when they were trying to explain to people about the spread of a virus. So what they did was they put ultraviolet cream on a person, and they had him sit, and they told him not to touch his face. And he would just sit for 10 minutes, and they would say, "Did you touch your face?" And he would say, "No." And then they would shine the ultraviolet light, and there would be marks all over his face. Because you don't remember when you touch your face. You don't even realize it. So it's the same idea. In any event, we have to use the power of our intellect to teach our bodies that we really are sitting in front of Hashem, and that's the continuation here. Omnam, mishehu bal seichel nachon, a person who has a established intelligence, a person who has a healthy intelligence, b'ma'at hizbaininus v'simas leiv, with a little bit of thoughtfulness and paying attention, yuchal likboya beliboy amitas hadavar. He can establish within his heart the truth of the matter. Eichuba, how he is coming, v'noisei mamish ima yizbarach, and he's mamish interacting with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. How lucky are we? Ulefanov u'mischanein, and you're davening in front of him. Umeitoi u'mevakesh, and from him you are begging. V'hu yizbarach shemai, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. You understand? Is there anybody that doesn't have something they need to daven for? HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. He doesn't send a messenger. It's not an agent. It's not a segula. It's not an inyan. It's not some kind of magic. Rather, the creator of the world himself, ma'azin lo, listens to him. Umakshiv l'dvarav, and takes heed to his words. Kasher yedaber ishal reu, like when someone's speaking to their friend. And his friend is listening to him. This is important, Rabbi say, because I think that the what he's saying here is a description of the solution, but it's also a description of the problem. I think in our minds we think so small of ourselves. We're so not machshav ourselves that I sit here and tell you that the Melech Malchei Amlachem HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the HaKadosh Baruch Hu is concerned with the ceasefire is going to last through Shabbos. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu is taking care of the war between Ukraine and Russia. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu is worrying about the Gedolei Yisrael and their plans. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu is making plans about Mashiach at the same time that he's running all the constellations of all the different parts of the universe. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a very, very big God that we have. And for me to tell you that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is listening to your tefillah, not just your tefillah when you daven shachris, but even your tefillah when you sit down and say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please help me to understand this taisvus. And Hashem is there listening. We're not machshiv ourselves to believe the Mesilas Yesharim. And that's something that we need to work on, to understand that HaKadosh Baruch Hu truly loves us. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu truly cares for us and is interested in us. And if we're not machshav ourselves, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is still machshav us. And when we say something, Hashem listens. Have you ever seen a new mother jump out of her seat when she hears her baby start crying? If you've seen that, you understand HaKadosh Baruch Hu's attentiveness to us. Kirachem av al banim. You could have a room full of people schmoozing, and the mother will be like, I think the baby's crying. You're like, don't be ridiculous. Oh yeah, the baby is crying. Because of how attuned a parent is to a child. And we have to recognize that. And this is the intermingling of Yira and Ava that I discussed yesterday. That if you want to have Yiras Shamayim, you want to feel the awe of being in front of Hashem, you have to believe Hashem loves you enough to pay attention to you. The two have to go together. If you don't believe Hashem cares about you enough to pay attention to you, it's very hard to ingrain in yourself that you're standing in front of Hashem. What does Hashem care? So the two things come together. That's why He puts them together. It's not me talking. That's how the Mesilas Yesharim puts it together. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is interested in me, even with my mistakes, even with my failings, even with my limitations. Hashem is interested in me. And that interest in me means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is present every moment of my life. And if He's present every moment of my life, I can teach myself to recognize that I'm Oymid Lifnei Hashem, and the entire tzura of my life would change. Could you imagine? The entire halach yeluk of how we act and how we interact with the world would change. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give us the ability to be able to sense His presence. Okay, we're going to stop here for now.